Thank you for watching the World Community Magazine's Hour of Power Live on Facebook with your hosts Edward McQueen and April Garner.
All right, good evening. You're coming live. It's good to be back. I'm your host Ed McQueen, for today's broadcast. And I want to thank all of our viewers for tuning in today and supporting what we have to say over the number of months before, and of course the coming months. So I want you to sit back. Today we're going to delve into something that it is important. I mean, it attaches to our legacy and our history. And we're talking about Gullah Geechee. That historically, not historically, but just give you a little background on that. It was in the year 2014 when October was declared the Gullah Geechee Heritage Month in 4 of the states. They call it the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor. This encompasses the coastal communities of North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. Now, the benefits of all that, I'll let our guests fill you in on that, okay? But the enormous benefits and enormous things that, as a community, we can get out of that, and something that we can preserve because it's there. So today, we have with us two very important factors in the Gullah Geechee arena, Mr. Ronald and Natalie Daise. They are performers, writers, artists, and cultural interpreters. But more so than that, they have a deep knowledge of the culture, of the Gullah Geechee knowledge there. So, and also Miss Veronica Gerald. She's Professor Emeritus and the founding director of the Charles Joint Institute for Gullah and African Diaspora Studies at Coastal Carolina University. So she's going to share the history regarding the Gullah diaspora and Atlantic Beach. I missed out something on Ron and Natalie Daise. They're going to be sharing the Gullah Association with. You're gonna like this, because a lot of you just don't know. In fact, I didn't know a whole lot, but Mackenzie Beach. I mean, there's some stuff that if this doesn't bring about some of the history, I don't know what will. So, welcome to the program, and welcome Ron and Natalie and Veronica. And we want to get started because our understanding is that both of you can't stay for the entire hour. So. Ron, you and Natalie, can you kind of familiarize our audience with your experience and what you all do relative to the Gullah Geechee corridor?
Well, hi, Ron Daise is my name. I'm a native of St. Helena Island, South Carolina. I've been working at Brook Green Gardens in Morrells Inlet for 17 years now, raising awareness of the interpretive history of Gullah Geechee culture and people. Also, Gullah Geechee Cultural Awareness Day actually began in 2013, at the time when I was the chairman of the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor Commission, and it continued in 2014, and it was a day to raise awareness of the importance, the significance of this heritage, located along the coast of 4 states, as you mentioned earlier, all the way from Wilmington, North Carolina, throughout South Carolina, including Horry County, Conway, and Georgetown, down throughout Georgia, all the way down to St. Augustine, Florida. The people are descendants primarily of West Africans who were brought during the 17 and 1800s to work on plantations producing cash crops, and in this community, primarily rice. So it's about rice heritage that is of great significance, the foodways, the spirituality, the beliefs, and of course, the language. Just recently, last year, my wife and I worked on a book with a Gullah Geechee native of Pawleys Island, South Carolina, Johnny L. Ford. And that book is called Mackenzie Beach Memories. It is a children's book for adults too. I wrote the story, and Natalie did the art for it. But Mackenzie Beach was it. It was a black beach at the time of segregation. Uh, uh, there were beaches for whites, and there were beaches for non-whites or black people, although the waters mixed. And Mackenzie Beach was a wonderful place that Mr. Ford wanted to make sure that today's generation knew about, because it closed
Absolutely.
after the hurricane in 1954. It began in 1934, and it was founded by Frank Mackenzie and Lily Knox. Lillian Pyatt, I'm sorry. Frank Mackenzie and Lillian Pyatt, and it was originally named the Magnolia Beach Club, but it was called Mackenzie Beach. And ever since I came to Pawleys Island, I heard stories about this Mackenzie Beach, that it was this wonderful, magical place, Black owned, and guests or Black people who wanted to go to the beach found that site a memorable place. I just wanted to read the opening of the book, if you don't mind,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
your interest in it.
It
It's
piqued my
full of
interest.
sunshine, rolling waves, and happy memories. When I hear it, I smile as wide as a cook who's ready to remove enough golden brown catfish from the frying pan to fill a platter full. The name is Mackenzie Beach. Although the formal name is Mackenzie Beach, all who spoke Geechee talk just dropped the apostrophe and the S. This meant that it was the beach that Mr. Frank Mackenzie owned. Saying that name quickly 4 times back to back makes me snap my fingers, sing rhythmically, and sway my head and shoulders from side to side. Mackenzie Beach, Mackenzie Beach, Mackenzie Beach, Mackenzie Beach. And I don't know if Natalie could share some of the story that inspired her to do some of the art that she did.
Yeah, look, from what this is an artist you have next to you, okay? I want you to know, from what I've seen, pure artist, man.
Thank you. Yeah, I was thinking recently that everything I do now in my old age is the stuff I was doing when I was little. You just kind of just keep on doing it. When Mr. Ford, because this was Mr. Ford's story, and what he wanted initially, he just wanted his children, his grandchildren, and his children to know about it. That was just his plan. He had a lot of little grandchildren, and he wanted them to know about his childhood on Mackenzie Beach. And if you want to know where Mackenzie Beach is or was, if you've been ever going up 17, going 17 north up to Myrtle Beach, coming from
Absolutely.
Charlotte, you might pass the ruins of an old motel on your right. And that
From Georgetown.
coming from Georgetown, right?
From Georgetown.
And driving on up. The ruins are kind of overgrown, but that was the last remnant that we can see of Mackenzie Beach. And when he was a little boy, he used to go there because his mama and his grandfather would cook there in the summer and run the dining hall. And when he would go and help them, and he would tell me about how he told me how he would see the bands, because you know how black bands would come and they could play in these other places, but they couldn't stay there.
Right. Yeah.
So at Mackenzie Beach, there was a big pavilion for dancing. There was a bakery and restaurant, and there was a hotel. And so the bands would stay there. And he said Ella Fitzgerald and all kind of bands, and
Count
Duke
Basie.
Ellington, Count Basie. They would all stay there and play, and folk would be dancing into the night on the beach. And one of the things that stuck with me, he was saying how he was a little boy now. He couldn't hang out where the folks were dancing, but he would see these men. He saw these bands in their green sequin jackets on the stage. And in the morning, he'd go in the dining hall to help his Mama out, and he'd see those jackets draped over the backs of the chairs, and men with their white shirts, sleeves rolled up, looking tired, eating pancakes that his grandpa made.
Now, the ruins that are still visible of the motel, that was the second site of Mackenzie Beach. That's after the hurricane destroyed all of the beach property that was further out into the waterway. There was a long pier, and people would tell me about this. You had to walk across this long pier over to all these the sites that Natalie just mentioned of Mackenzie Beach. It was a beautiful place.
Yeah. And Mr. Mackenzie had a little booth, he said, and you could walk across the pier, but you better have 15 cents.
So what was the name of this hurricane at that time?
Hazel.
Hurricane Hazel.
It was Hurricane Hazel. And he wanted to rebuild after Hurricane Hazel, but by then the Litchfield Company had bought up some of that land. And as a black man, he couldn't get the permits he needed to rebuild. And so then there was erosion. So where he did build the water, he tried to rebuild the pavilion, but the water would come in. He said folk would be dancing in the water, and then the band would have to move up to the parking lot.
Right.
I did read somewhere that at one point when he wanted to sell, that Septima Clark and some other folk tried to raise money to buy it. I think that fell through. And I'm trying to remember where I found that, but I found that was really interesting, that there had been this attempt to have this kind of black consortium to buy the property. Right now, there are still some folk who have some families from way back then who still own some of it, like the Manigos and the Pyatt's, I believe, still own. Have
the Manigos and the Pyatt's.
Yes, but one piece of it was sold to a developer, but the Manigos and the Pyatt's have not actually allowed that developer access to do anything with it. Because Lord knows, we just don't need another hotel. But that's what I think. Anyway, it was a pleasure to try to capture the memories of Mr. Ford.
Johnny L. Ford.
Johnny L. Ford. His son is Johnny A. Ford. With my art. And so in my mind, I just would imagine a little Johnny. And I just wanted to paint brown folk in every shade of brown.
Right.
And I wanted to show them just having a good time.
I think if we had the time, we could have gotten some of the graphics out of the book here.
Right.
I got my copy. I want you to know. I got my copy. So it depicts everything that you're talking about whenever you were talking, Ron, about what these people what they're doing, and you put it in with the Gullah.
Yeah.
But the ultimate end of the book was fascinating in such that the person, I believe, that was relative to the book didn't know that that was his or her father.
Yes, Mr. Ford, man, he had this vision of writing a book and wanted me to assist him, and he had all these handwritten notes about things, the way that the buildings look, the beauty of the area, the foods that were served that his grandfather and mother helped to bake. But I conflated his stories to happening in one summer. All of his memories happening in one summer. And in the story, he learned, he survived almost drowning at Mackenzie Beach. One of his memories are, Black people on the beach where you were raised by the village. Everyone is your parent. Whenever he or other children would run to the waters, there would be people saying, "Don't go too far, don't go too far." And the further they went, "Don't go too far, don't go too far." But one day he went too far and got caught in a rip current. But he did survive. Also, during the time frame of this story, he learns from another child. This is not what happened in real life. He learns from another child at the beach, that Frank Mackenzie was his dad. And he had not known that. But he says that when he became an adult, Mr. McKenzie pulled him aside and said, "You can call me Pops."
Wow. That's interesting. Well, that caught my attention when I was listening to you when you were narrating that
Right.
about the book. That was a great performance, by the way. So so how can people get copies of the book?
The books are available through Johnny A. Ford. Johnny A. Ford.
They're at the Litchfield bookstore in Paulie's.
Right. The gift shop at Brooklyn Gardens has copies as well.
And there may be other. We aren't selling the book at this moment, but I know there are some of those folks, and if we think of some other places, we'll try to put them we'll share it with you.
But Johnny Ford works at a father's place, so he can be easily contacted.
Right. Yeah. I think he the contact person in Georgetown for the father's place, I believe.
Yes.
Yes.
I believe. Yeah. Father's place is doing a fantastic job. Great job. So, do you all plan on doing any traveling? In making any more narrations? You know, I saw and I'll talk with Veronica maybe about that later on. About I saw this PBS piece about where all of you were in Africa.
Yes.
Man, I mean that's that. You should promote that. I don't know how to
I would be
promote
real
it.
interested in what Veronica got to say about how she was in Africa. I'll be interested in what she got to say.
They will never believe it.
I bet they loved her.
What happens in Africa?
Like what happened in Sierra Leone stays in Sierra Leone. So I don't know.
But you know, it's really strange because we weren't back 3 weeks before the whole country was shut down.
That's right.
Yeah.
That was strange, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah.
You know, I thought I was thinking about how my art, you know, what I would do with my art and how my stories had changed, and then everything shut down. And for a while I thought that it hadn't impacted my art, but then when I look back at the work that I created over the last year, I can see very much where that trip. I was working through it, you know.
Yes. It's wonderful. The illustrations in this book is just awesome.
Fantastic. Really, really.
Well, I actually finished the illustrations right before we left for Sierra Leone.
That's even better.
Yeah, I finished the illustrations before because when Johnny, Mr. Ford, and Ron, they finished the text at the end of 2017, and then they gave me the draft of the book early 2018. But at that point, I had a lot happening. My mom, you know, how I got over. Look back and wonder. So finally, you know, near the end of 2018, I said, I can't hold Mr. Ford up like this, you know, because tomorrow's not promised anybody. I got to get this done.
Right.
So then I really began to push to finish the book, and I finished the art in probably November, December of 2019, and then we went to Africa.
And then we went, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So Ron, you mentioned Brook Green Garden. Your affiliation with there?
I'm vice president for creative education. I do a weekly Gullah Geechee program on Wednesdays at 1:00 p.m. Just this year, we launched a new public program of oral history narratives, of which Veronica is one of those who are represented. It's called Seen, Heard, Esteemed, Oral History Narratives of Georgetown County, South Carolina. And there are 6 Gullah Geechee individuals and groups who are represented. They are Veronica Gerald, John Bolts, Ruby Forsyth, Lily Knox, Abraham Harriet, and also Black soldiers from the Civil War area who were from Georgetown, South Carolina. And these narratives can be heard off-site. You get the Brook Green Gardens app, which is free. and you can access all of them. These are educators. Veronica is telling stories of her heritage being connected with Brook Green Gardens, or formerly Brook Green Plantation. Lily Knox was a singer, and Ruby Forsyth, of course. Miss, you've heard of Miss Ruby's Kids. That's Ruby Forsyth, and ways that this culture has impacted not only Georgetown County, of which many people may be unaware, but all of Americana.
Yeah.
Well said. Yeah.
Absolutely. What Ron? It was never really clear to me that what it started in Wilmington, right? This corridor starts in Wilmington, North Carolina, and then it goes all the way down, right?
Correct.
So why not? What excluded beyond Wilmington? What kind of justification was there for not having that?
It was, they were looking for areas, communities of rice heritage. When the bill was first brought to the table by Congressman Clyburn, South Carolina and Georgia were the only areas that were focused. But when community engagement meetings were held, it was learned that rice heritage went further north and also further south. And those were the, from Wilmington to, from Jacksonville, North Carolina to Jacksonville, Florida, initially were what was determined to be the northern and southern boundaries. But it was later discovered that in Wilmington, North Carolina, I believe it was Pender County. Am I correct, Veronica?
Yeah, I was thinking it is Pender County.
Yes, Pender County in Wilmington, all the way down to St. Augustine, Florida. Those are communities where rice was grown, even if you had no idea that rice. But once the corridor was established, there were numerous people, residents, who shared their memories of the importance and things, lots of things that began in the Carolina colony, which evolved into Carolina, South Carolina, and North Carolina. Things travel there, and there are numerous Gullah people or enslaved Africans living in what's now the Gullah communities who traveled south searching for freedom and carried their rice heritage with them. And that's why it extended all the way down to St. Augustine, Florida.
You know, we also have, we found during that study, the Cape Fear Gullah.
That's right.
Yeah, a whole new component of us, with the Cape Fear Indians intermarried with the Gullah. And it's just a whole, we're so diverse.
Right.
Yeah.
So diverse.
My daughter had been doing some research. My daughter's a historian, and she was reading about how when the Civil War, when they lost, many South Carolina planters moved to Alabama, carrying their Gullah Geechee enslaved people with them to get away from the Carolinas, from South Carolina. And so they moved many Gullah people into Alabama, which was interesting. As my family, my father's people were Alabama, and I always said, well, I'm not Gullah Geechee. I'm not, because, you know, I wasn't born here and I couldn't do a direct correlation. But I know that my grandmother worked in indigo as a child. And then when we did my DNA, it was like Rice Coast. So we don't know, because we went everywhere. We went where they took us or where we ran and went.
Absolutely.
Actually, what helps you find us is the culture.
Yeah.
Like going to Oklahoma to the Seminoles, and their rice tastes just like our Perlo rice. You know, so it's kind of the culture sometimes that lets you know where we are rather than the history.
Yeah.
Well, you know, indeed, before cotton came, rice came of the South, really, of the Southeast anyway.
rice was Georgetown County was the biggest exporter of rice in the world.
In the world.
World.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. This little
During the 1700s, half of the rice in this country was grown in Georgetown County.
Mm-hmm.
It was definitely the epicenter.
But the biggest exporter, because they were exporting rice from here back to colonies in Africa, exporting rice to Europe, exporting rice from here all over the world. Everywhere
Absolutely.
where there was colonization. I remember doing a tour of the Rice Museum and someone saying, well, why were they exporting rice back to Africa? I mean, it's like, man, capitalism. That's all I can say. But
well, as we found when we were in Sierra Leone, currently, rice is not grown in Sierra Leone.
It's grown, but not as a major cash crop.
Correct.
Right.
It's grown for survival, sustenance.
Yes.
Right. It's survival crops. They're importing rice from Asia.
From Asia.
Yeah.
That's that.
Vietnam, probably. Cambodia. Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
Well, look, that's this kind of knowledge. You should be charging for this kind of knowledge, but you only get it on the World Community Magazine Live. Get everything free because we're a community. So, Ms. Gerald, Floyd. Now, your association is more well. You want to narrate on the Atlantic Beach Association with the Gullah. Is that correct?
Yeah, because they were talking about Mackenzie Beach, and it's kind of like the other side of the coin. The same things that were happening at those beaches kind of went on down the corridor. Same problems, hurricanes, devastations. But one of the things that happened with Atlantic Beach that really made, I think, an interesting piece is that while Mackenzie Beach had the one on Atlantic Beach was founded by several businessmen as an investment. So in the 1930s, you had African-American businessmen investing in oceanfront property for business purposes. So that's a unique piece that's not really talked about a lot because it would sound too much like Black Wall Street.
Right.
Veronica, I didn't mention earlier, but I think we told our audience ahead of time that Brother Ron and his wife they have to leave at 7:30. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So
let them say.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we have nothing else to add. I'm so sorry. I'm going to miss you, Veronica, but I'll tune in and watch the recording. And it's so nice to see you again.
Well, when you go to Africa together, the way we went together, not the tourist route, we went backwoods routes. You develop a closeness that you probably couldn't get on American soil.
Nothing like having to run into the bush together.
Yeah, so good to see y'all.
Okay.
You're bringing so much to us, and you brought so much to us on this program. And we hope to have you back again. Because I know there's a lot more to talk about.
Yes.
Right. There's a lot more to talk about. You guys have got books and all that kind of stuff that I know you want to share. And Ron, you and Natalie, I just thank you so much for sharing what you've shared already. See, I told you I was impressed when I saw saw you narrate the Mackenzie Beach memories. So at the library, man, that was something. So and I had to get the book. So
wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Good to see y'all.
So Veronica, Atlantic Beach kind of runs parallel. How many black beaches were there? Just Mackenzie and Atlantic Beach? I thought there was another one.
There's one in Jacksonville, Florida. That's Atlantic Beach.
No, that's close to Atlantic Beach, in South Carolina, someplace.
South Carolina.
It wasn't?
There is one more, but it was Miss Gagem's house. it may not have had a name, but you could go to her house and crab on the beach and that kind of thing.
Right.
But I don't think it had a name. It may have earlier. But you know what's really interesting about these beaches, you know, during the 1930s, we were out migrating from what used to be plantation land.
Right.
Remember when they used to use the term, he went to find work?
He went to find work.
When you go to find work.
You find work.
Yeah. So a lot of people, like my people, left Brook Green Plantation and started moving north to find work. And Conway was a very appealing place. Myrtle Beach was an appealing place because it had a river. You know, rivers were very important in that economy.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so Waccamaw River was very...
the logging, the logging going up and down the river.
Exactly. And then
indeed,
we had Turpentine, Puckwood.
Yep.
So Conway was an appealing place. So a lot of people went to find work and landed in Conway. Some landed in Southport, North Carolina. Some landed in Little River, wherever work was.
Right. Any kind of work.
Any kind of work.
Any kind of work.
And a lot of time it was customary for the men to leave their families behind and then develop the place to stay and then send for them. So what happened with the 1930s was really an interesting occurrence because we were very much mobile. It was still illegal for African American women to travel without their men. It's kind of like a labor thing, you know, kind of keep them immobile.
Yeah.
So that they would stay where they are and serve in the service industry. But
and multiply.
Yes.
And multiply.
So that's what was going on.
Yeah, for more labor. Okay?
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, multiply for more labor.
Slavery kind of changed in terms of shadow slavery, but post-slavery invented new ways to enslave.
Absolutely.
So, Atlantic Beach and places like Mackenzie Beaches, those were places people had to go and let their hair down.
Absolutely. Letting everything down. The frantic.
And we have to remember, too, that our people back then believed in the healing powers of the ocean.
Yeah.
So there were many reasons to come to the ocean other than just having fun. People went to the ocean for different things.
Yeah, and I often dwell on, in fact, I remind myself of the fact that actually, I don't think Myrtle Beach could have grown as well without the cheap labor that it was surrounded with. Okay.
No doubt.
Yeah. Okay?
No doubt.
Housekeeping, all that. Okay.
It could be safely said Gullah Geechee people built the Grand Strand.
I'll be in your corner on that.
If we're looking at labor, we could also look at places like hotels where certain very good cooks would be the cooks in the kitchen. Those hotels got repeat business every year because they were known to come down for that great cooking. They didn't call it Gullah food at that time. But not only did we build the beach like the Ocean Forest Hotel, several people listening probably have ancestors that can say they built those. It was totally built by an African American population. So we built the beach and we also built the food culture. It's one of those little known history facts, but we made hotels by making my aunt, Mariah McCoy, was said to have made the best yeast rolls ever.
Yeast roll?
Yeast rolls. And Miss Austin, I can't remember her first name, was the best rice cook. They had reputations.
Absolutely.
And could use their power to bargain at other hotels as well.
Yeah. So Veronica, the what's coming up next regarding, I think you mentioned earlier about the PBS program that I shared with you and that we saw.
Mm-hmm.
It hadn't been shown, widely to my knowledge.
No.
But you mentioned, there's going to be a showing at maybe one of the colleges.
Yeah, it's going to be a showing at Coastal on the 23rd of October, 1 o'clock. That's a Saturday in the Coastal Carolina Theater. And we're looking forward to, well, we did the planning prior to COVID, but we're looking forward to a very interesting group because this is the first time we're going to show the screening and have people from the community respond to it.
Yeah.
You may not have been to Africa, but you can respond to a film.
So
and I'm kind of excited about that.
Yeah, after they know Ron's face as of today, and your face, of course, they know. So when they see that movie, that PBS documentary, they should be left in awe. Okay, it should be left in awe because so much was revealed about y'all's trip there, and it was filmed very well. I thought you did a good filming of it.
ETV went with us as part of the trip, as well as the film crew, and they wanted to look at how native Gullah people would go back home.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting thing. We are planning to go again for those who want to go December 2022. It's not a luxury trip. You go back into the villages because that's where the people need help. And it's a trip that will change your life.
So tell us a little bit more. Who's coordinating it, and what's some of the logistics that you expect in order to get there, get on the trip? Is it a group?
The group that coordinated it is a travel group. Amadou Masali is the person who is head of it, and I can supply you with that information. You can put it on the website.
Okay, so
come in.
We'll do that. So can they call you for any additional information?
Well, that particular, they can do the website and check, leave a message. But definitely, it's the kind of trip that you intellectually know that there's a connection because you read about it and you feel it, but to go and stand on the ground and to look in the eyes of your own people.
Yeah.
And they didn't know what happened to us when we left. They knew that people were sent away as slaves, but slavery wasn't looked upon in the same way as it happened on American soil. So they didn't know what we went through for a long time. And you might remember during the time we went to college, they started coming to the U.S. to college, and we started meeting up and learning about each other for the first time.
Right. Yeah.
But one of the things I wanted to go back though and talk about Atlantic Beach, 1930 Atlantic Beach evolved as probably the most well-known globally beach in the world. Right there on Atlantic Beach. And the thing that really shot Atlantic Beach and places like Mackenzie Beach in the foot, weather, of course, but really desegregation hurt businesses that were created out of segregation. It's kind of like an oxymoron. Yeah,
absolutely.
So that's what happened. African Americans wanted to go and experience what they didn't have when they were segregated.
The other side of the fence.
Yes.
The other side of the fence. So now we know.
Yeah. So Atlantic Beach, up until probably about 10 years, was regarded as the only Black-owned beach in the country. But I'm not sure whether those stats still hold. We've had a lot of land losses. We've had a lot of new people coming into the area.
Right. A lot of land exchanging going on.
Yeah. But what Atlantic Beach did, though, just one more thing, what Atlantic Beach did is it touched the world. You can go to London, you can go to Russia and find people who've been to Atlantic Beach during that time period, of course. Have
Absolutely.
pictures. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it was a global experience that is fast disappearing, as did Mackenzie Beach. Now there's another beach down in Charleston called Mosquito Beach. Same story, but they're being revived.
Wow. So, as you being the founding director of the Charles Joyner Institute for Gullah and African Diaspora Studies, so what is projected in terms of and how when do you get your funding and where is it, if it's not personal? Yes.
It's not anything like that on a college campus has to find its own funding.
Okay.
And before I retired, Elder Paul had donated money in my stead because he was a student of mine. Believe it or not, when I first came to the coastal, he wanted to go back and learn how to write and do things that he didn't get to do while he was a boy. And I met him and we became friends. So when I got the directorship, he invested in it. So you get money in that way. You also get money by writing grants. The Donnelly Foundation has taken an interest in the institute. It's the only institute of its kind in the country. There is no other Gullah institute. So we're living in an area where there's a uniqueness there. And with the Gullah Geechee Heritage Corridor being right in the middle of where we are, is something that it's remarkable.
It is. Yeah, absolutely.
It's remarkable. From it's about 1,200, almost 1,300 square miles. It is the only corridor nationally that interprets a living culture. All other corridors look at things like rivers and mountains and like Niagara Falls.
Right. Yeah.
That kind of thing. But
yeah.
We are the U.S. Culture. Senate. Yeah. The U.S. Senate and House passed a bill in 2005 called the Gullah Geechee Heritage Act, designed to study us.
Designed to study us.
And to highlight us and to bring attention to us and to say that we are the oldest culture of our kind. We still have words in our culture that existed in Africa. So
well, sure. I've heard you talk many times with your words.
Not those. It's the words like kufa.
Kufa?
Kufa.
Well, you gotta expand on that.
Kufa is a word related to making a sound or not making a sound. So if I say to you, she didn't say kufa to me today, what would you think I meant?
She didn't say anything to me today.
Yes, exactly. We also have a word.
Oh, she didn't say nothing.
One of the things when we went to Africa, my project, all of us had different reasons for going, and mine was called Going to Africa and Toting Brook Green. And I used the word toting because very few of us realize that the word tote is an African word. It's not an American word.
Oh, I never knew that. I thought that was colloquial, but
no.
Derived on
Tote is a word that means to carry.
Yeah, it's carrying, yeah.
But see, the umbrella company and all of those companies came in and stole that little word away from us before we got a chance to know that we were the ones that brought it here in the first place.
So how did they steal it, by the way?
Because they named things totes. You know, at a tote, you're a male, but you can, as a female, you can have a tote, which is a little purse or a bag to carry something in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that word was just kind of eased away from us. But when I went to Africa and said the word tote, all of the Sierra Leoneans said, "You still say that word?" I said, "Yeah, we still say it in the country. And not only do we still say it, it is not our word anymore."
Veronica, before we leave, and I know you got to leave, let's get you on track to open that store back up again where you had all of those beautiful Gullah Geechee artifacts and all the stuff, the food that was done during that era, whatever. Mm-hmm. And your store was named, was it Gullah Geechee?
Well, at the time it was Ultimate Gullah, but I love that store.
Gullah, yeah.
So many people from away from here who know about us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I loved it, but you can't have a store open on love, can you?
Yeah, you need support, but you know, but for locally, for lack of education on the issue of Gullah Geechee, I think that that's probably factored in, okay, as to the success of it, and I suppose. But I think once they keep continuing to be educated on that, you give it another try, okay?
I'm gonna get you and your family to come and work 1 day a week each. It's hard to find labor when you have a store too.
Yeah, I know. We're covered in the magazine, of course.
Yeah. So this October being Gullah Geechee month is also important.
Yeah.
How long did it take African American History Week to become a month?
Whoa.
Now you don't remember African American History Week?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember that.
How long did it take to become a whole month? And then
my lifetime.
Yeah. So, but the Gullah Geechee month to have been designated as soon as it has, I just like for your audience to realize that this culture is very, very, very unique and very important. Primarily because it is a testimony to our stamina. Just to maintain a word for over 400 years, really, when you think about it, that still an original word says something for itself. And not only that, we have a lot of our village still intact. We just don't know it. I saw it in Africa, and I realized it was still in America too. It's just kind of disguised under artificial intelligence and television and just different things, but it's still there. It's just not clearly visible to us. So I would really suggest that we look for that village again.
Yeah. So Veronica, how you all are related to, or do you do any study on historical studies on this plantation, Mansfield Plantation? That's famous down there.
Yes. One thing about scholarship, some people kind of become that person that people go to as the definitive scholar.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening with Mansfield. I don't necessarily know the name right now, but he's doing a good job with it and pretty much working on a book that's supposed to really be the definitive history of Mansfield Plantation. One thing too that we do still have in Georgetown, the plantation of Michelle Obama's people. It is up for sale. It was, at least before the pandemic. I'm not sure what's going on now, but it is a plantation that is still intact. It's just that it's just so difficult to maintain large portions of land like they used to. So people are selling those large plantations.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, so don't we want you to stay, but we don't. You told us earlier that you want to be up until like 7:45 or 7:50 something.
Yeah.
But you have so much to offer, Veronica.
We're going to be around. We right now what we're doing, and I know you're kind of familiar with it. What we're doing now is we're looking at what happened to the children of those people who went to find work in places like Conway, Myrtle Beach, Wilmington, on up the coast. How once the parents went to work, where were the children?
Yeah.
So that's
right.
when you come to these schools that places like you and I went to, schools that were all Black schools.
Right.
And so those schools came into existence as part of that segregation that Ron and Natalie talked about with Mackenzie. It came into existence with the same thing at Atlantic Beach, where you need the labor, but you need the separation of the labor and their children. So schools like Whittemore Elementary School, Whittemore High School, and Conway became the only places. Well, Whittemore High School was the only high school in the county for a good while. So Conway, ironically, was the meeting place,
Right.
for Horry County, Black Horry.
I'm at one of these days. And I may have shared it before. I'm going to dig into our archives of the World Community Magazine and convey to our audience the photo of the first community college in Horry County. That was at Whittemore High School.
Yeah.
Okay, it was called Eastern Community College. It was headed by Mr. Ernest F. Finney, the senior, and his son, Judge Finney, who retired as judge, was a teacher there. And that was the first community college. It was successful. I guess some politics must have come into play, but it was probably the only Black community college in that. I'll just use the boundaries as the Gullah and Geechee diaspora. Okay.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't argue against it, because I remember people that were going to the school.
Really?
Yeah. Well, a girl that lived in the neighborhood had come up from Georgetown to live with her grandmother so she could go to the school.
Wow.
And that's something we have to look at too, is how we boarded each other. How you could leave small towns and come to Conway and board with someone while you go to school.
Survival.
Education was very important, and we're really up against the wall now with Whittemore Elementary School, because that's the school that educated this whole county. Well, not the elementary school, but it educated everyone in Conway, that's for sure. And it's on the roster to be demolished. Important.
Yeah. That needs to be brought into the forefront. And look, not just Whittemore Elementary School, but Whittemore Park. Okay, I mean,
yeah. Okay. Hard to say, isn't it?
It's right. It's hard to say park. I started to say Whittemore High School.
I say it all the time.
Yeah, but just look at that whole building structure there, starting from the elementary school on to matriculation into the junior high and the high school.
Yeah.
Whittemore Park is a nice school. I don't get me wrong, but it's still part of the Whittemore community.
Well, it's on Whittemore land. It's the land that carries the energy, I think.
Yeah, right, and we'll get to that. That's an issue that we'll carry on and continue to talk about. Because the community is behind maintaining that and not tearing down the legacy of something that brought us where we are. So
yeah.
So okay. So look, I hope you enjoyed us as much as we enjoyed listening to. I always enjoy listening to your Gullah history. You and Ron. Everybody just does such a great job. Okay. And I'm a person that I just love to hear when anything that's new, this knowledge, this I think is going to benefit not just myself but surroundings. I'm all for it.
I always enjoy coming on, and I must say I think you and your staff do a wonderful job, and I love your name, Whittemore. Whittemore. But yeah, you do a wonderful job, and all praises to you too. And thank you for the invitation.
Well, I'm backed up. Of course, our co-host is she's looking at us, and she's manipulating behind the scene. But the person that's really behind the scene, she's over there in those comment section over there. But she says, "Excellent oral history, Sister Veronica." Sister Joella.
Well, we always know who's who.
Yeah. So we're gonna take a commercial break. I think we got enough time. So Veronica, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And since Gullah continues to grow, we're just going to continue to have you on in a later time, and a lot of collaboration. I envision that collaboration with the other entities of the community.
Sure. It's good.
Right, to pique our interest. Okay. So thank you so much.
Y'all have to keep bringing those Gullah words in, like I brought one in today, kufa.
Kufa, yeah.
And tote. So y'all have them too. So that's the assignment since I've retired teacher. Your assignment is to find a word that's Gullah that you use all the time and don't know it. Like okra.
You sound like an instructor, okay? That's a teacher.
I'm retired. I guess I'm bored.
Uh-oh. Regards to my brother.
I will. Thank you too.
All right. So we're gonna go through some commercials now. What do you think, April? So we're back. Thank you to our viewers. Where it's about that time that we have to go, but I want to say thank you to our guests, and they've gone now. But we've got a few other comments that I just want to share some with you, if you don't mind, April, from Shirley Wiggins. I guess most people can see them on there anyway. But anyway, let me tell you a little bit about next week before we end the program. Next week, we're going to have a schedule. Chief Joseph Hill. Some been a few happenings in our community for the past 3 weeks, I think it was, and we're going to have Chief Joseph Hill, the chief of the Horry County Police Department, to come and give us a little overview or synopsis, if you will, of what the department is doing now and its projections in terms of employment, and the new budget that it just got a hold of sounds pretty good. So I implore all of you to consider making that as a career. And Chief Hill will be on next week to further expand on that and talk a little bit more about how far the budget can go and how many more new employees they're going to be having and so forth. So I think it's going to be interesting. So gear up and get your pencils ready so that you may be interested in that. All right. So I'm going to say good night to most of our viewers, all of our viewers. Certainly appreciate you viewing the show, and thank some new commenters, which I haven't seen in a while. Thank you for sending in your comments. And until next week, on behalf of myself and April, I'll say good evening. God bless. We'll see you next week, God willing. Okay.
Thank you for watching the World Community Magazine's Hour of Power Live on Facebook with your host Edward McQueen and April Garner.